Hi everyone, I'm Jackson Harris from KBEV, and I'm here with Amanda Stern for another board candidate interview. First of all, congratulations on the endorsement from the Beverly Hills Education Association and the Los Angeles County Democratic Party.
Thank you.
That's a great achievement.
Thank you so much.
So to start, tell us about your background and how that can make you a better board member.
I've spent the last 20 years working with schools in a bunch of different capacities on a professional level. So by trade, I am a school psychologist, which you may know what that's about. Our training is to look at how we can diagnose children who are having difficulties, but it's not just kids with difficulties, but it's the whole school and the whole school system. So I can create bullying plans for the whole school. I can look at ways to support kids who are suffering from, the pandemic. But my background is starting with a master's degree from Harvard University. That was about 20 years ago. And then I got my licensure to become a school psychologist in California. So I have been, for the last 10 years or so, circulating among different school districts as a consultant. So I consult about all sorts of matters that affect different school populations, whether they're the preschool level age or they are high school students. And I look at ways to support the administration, to bridge gaps between what the teachers want versus the parents versus the kids for different behavior problems or different learning outcomes. So my background is one of both psychology with children, but also management, because often when the principal of the school is otherwise occupied, they put me in charge to manage the overall operation of the school. I'll also add that I'm a published author of a book. You can find it on Amazon. It concerned my doctoral thesis, which is about educational leadership. And I looked at predictors of happiness and adjustment among high school students. So that is one area of my expertise.
Wow. So what inspired you to run for the board?
Over the years, different people in my life here in Beverly Hills have said you would be a great fit. Not only are you a team player, you get along with everyone, but also you understand the oversight of a school district with your training, with your passion for children and your passion for learning and achievement. A lot of people have said, whether they're neighbors or they are people at the school, teachers, have said that you would really be an asset for the board. Specifically because of the pandemic, I feel that there is a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of societal uncertainties, fiscal uncertainties, but I think that someone who has a bird's eye view of not only the psychology of children, but also how schools work in the context of a larger community and municipality is something that I can really, get my hands in there to really help and support the students and the families.
Right, that's really important.
Thank you.
So what qualities do you possess that would make you the best candidate?
Let's see. I universally get along with everyone, I will say, but I offer intelligent conversation with people so that we can work out differences. I'm a very good listener by training. I think the background knowledge, the academic book smarts for children and their development is very helpful. But I also think that I am able to play a watchdog role and to look at the board in the larger context of Beverly Hills. I have been a resident for 16 years. I am a mom to kids who have been in the Beverly Hills School District for about 9 years. I also think that, again, getting back to the school psychology experience, that I really understand the different roles of all the professionals in a school district. I understand their roles. I have managed and been an administrator for different components of the school district. I also love Beverly Hills, and I feel that I'm well positioned to make and help make decisions in conjunction with others that will benefit us in this pandemic era of fiscal uncertainty, societal uncertainty, and a bunch of different layers of complication. But we all need to move together, and I'm really willing to work hard. This is, as you know, an unpaid voluntary position, and I think we really need people who not only understand schools, but want to do this and want to help.
Right, and I think, wanting to be a part of this board is very important, and you could create a lot of change. So through your whole background, what would you say is your biggest strength?
My biggest strength is dealing with crisis situations among groups of children. I'm trained in crisis management. I'm trained in how to de-escalate children who are upset. I also am a very prolific writer with the book, but not, you may know this, but good writers tend to be good readers. And that goes back to the fact that I'm pretty well versed in reading a lot of legal matters. I'm not a law professional, but I'm certainly well versed in understanding different matters and measures that arise for the school district. I would say that, again, working in collaboration with others is a very large strength of mine, as well as being willing to understand all the different factions and parts that make a school district move together.
So as you know, it's a crazy time right now with the pandemic. So there's a lot of challenges being faced with the new system of learning. What do you think is the biggest issue that's being faced currently?
I think that because it is a new format of learning and very quickly. So curricula and teaching methodology works to the extent that there's been experience, that there's been many years of developing it. So, for 40 years, all of our teaching has been based on the format of being physically present, obviously, and then the format of having children or peers next to each other, working together when available, when possible, and having a whiteboard right in front of them, and being able to physically move and go in and out of the classroom. So when you take away the aspect of being able to physically collaborate, which is very important socially for children, and you take away the motion, literally, of kids who usually go in and out and they travel across the day, you really throw in some difficulties of the overall educational outcomes because you have a very static experience. I think the biggest difficulty is that for teacher training and for educational training, and this is not their fault, but there is not a lot of training so far about how to deliver instruction online, how to assess, how to meet benchmarks with achievement, even though you can't physically be around the students, and it's much harder to get groups to work together and have collaborative learning. So in a nutshell, I would say that the most difficult experience is the static nature of people or children having their education transmitted, broadcasted at home, and largely taking out the collaborative aspect. And I know Zoom, you can do different things, but it's just very different. And it is not something that our teachers have been fully immersed in. There is guidance that is needed for that. There is programming that is needed to support teachers. There are some ground rules that need to be put in place because it's all new to the families, the teachers, the administrators, this degree of remote online learning.
Right. It's a really weird time. The schooling is very different for a lot of people. So it's definitely a little challenging. So what is your main and ultimate goal you would like to address that makes you different from the other candidates?
I want to support all of the students, not just the ones who sign up for counseling or whose parents say to the administration, the teachers, my child's really having a hard time. I want there to be a culture among our schools that addresses that this is a difficult time and everyone needs support. The parents need support. We as a community have many layers of pain, I would say, related to this whole situation. And so there needs to be, throughout the thread of the schools in the district, some sort of acknowledgement that this is a difficult time, and there needs to be ongoing monitoring to support everyone with this. So one of my main goals is really to make a culture of support given what is going on, whether that is in the form of group discussion or forum, or it is a matter of student ambassadors who lead the way to talk about some of these issues or express them in ways that are creative and educational. we are in a time in which the children are a part of a very monumental time. As we know, they're likely all going to grow up and say, oh yes, I was a pandemic or I was a COVID child. So that takes on certain meaning. And I think that the schools need to embrace that when we do ultimately go back, that it is not just like turning on a light switch and everything's back to normal, obviously. There's going to be a lot of moving parts. There's going to be a lot of adjustments and changes. And the model for how we see education has to change, given that there was let's say, a 1 year or hopefully less experience of remaining home. I also feel that we want to look at the financial stability and the solvency of the district. I think that, again, with so many fiscal uncertainties, given, what sort of aid are we going to get as a district, it's really unclear at this point. And so that is anxiety provoking, I think, for the school district. And as we put together the budget, for next year, for this coming year, we have that in place, but it was based on assumptions of uncertainty. And that puts us in a very precarious place where there has to be a lot of thought about how we're going to stay solvent given this crisis and the needs that we will have. The other thing that I'm looking at is the declining enrollment is really a concern. We want to continue to be the choice district for school. We don't want the mass exodus of people necessarily going to private school. I mean, that's their choice to do that, but we want to be seen as the rigorous, robust education that we can offer, and putting more kids into advanced placement and supporting them so they stay the course and they do well and they succeed, I think is one cornerstone to making our district back on the track for being, heralded as one of the preeminent districts. That's primarily.
So could you maybe expand upon how you could possibly fix the decline in enrollment in the school district?
I sort of mentioned it a little bit. I do think that the advanced placement classes and tests and getting the culture of our school by culture, I mean that everyone has this on their mind, or most people have this on their mind, and the parents and the educators, is that we are a district that really goes to higher levels of achievement and learning with advanced placement. I also think that the wonderful offerings we have, the pathways as we call them, and the career and technical educational components are there. I've seen an amazing amount of offerings for kids, but there is, to some extent, I feel some apathy with some students, and you guys might agree with this. I don't know if it's the gaming culture or just because we've all been sort of sitting home. But even before that, I feel that a lot of these great opportunities were not actually used to the extent that they could be. And I think that to the degree we can make kids more engaged in some of these offerings, I think that would increase the interest level and the motivation for the kids. But as a town, there is a real problem of housing being unaffordable for a lot of families, and that's something that we can't necessarily do something about at this point. But if we have a lot of people who are leaving Beverly Hills because they want to have a home, which I understand, that becomes a real issue for affordability for families, and it's hard for people to remain in our district.
Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. It was amazing. Thank you so much for allowing me to interview you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Of course.
Have some fun today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Please stay tuned for the upcoming candidates debate, which will be released on September 30th at 6 p.m. Reporting for KBEV 6, I'm Jackson Harris, and we'll see you next time.